The Kids Online Safety Act promises to provide protections for people aged 16 and younger that are on the internet. But there's a big problem with this, besides the obvious one that it is yet another think of the children bill. And if you've been paying attention, you would have realized that these think of the children bills, they don't ever actually do anything to protect your children. And it's not the government's place to be parenting your children anyway. And why would you want them to? I mean, look at actual examples of the government parenting children, like the foster care system or juvenile correction facilities or public schools. If you are a halfway decent parent, then you should be able to do a better job than these examples of government parenting. But the other big issue with this bill is, in order for the Kids Online Safety Act to actually work, it requires increased surveillance to be taking place not just of kids, but of everybody that's using the internet, and it also includes limiting kids' access to information and really limiting everybody's access to information. There's that Trojan horse. We need to spy on you even more, and we need to prevent you from being able to see certain things, from being able to view content about certain topics. Because think of the children. So this act requires the following. There's a legal duty for platforms to prevent children from seeing certain harmful content. Okay, KOSA, Kids Online Safety Act, it outlines a wide collection of content that platforms could be sued for if young people were to encounter it. Things including promotion of self-harm, suicide, eating disorders, substance abuse, and other matters that pose a risk to physical and mental health of a minor. That last one is the key one to keep in mind because it is very, very vague. Now, this act also compels platforms to provide data to researchers, so those researchers are also going to have this additional insight into browsing habits as a result of the platforms, well, gaining this insight in the first place, assuming that they weren't already spooky to begin with, is taking all this data from you in order to monetize it. Now, of course, they're going to say that when that data is given to researchers, it is anonymized, but of course, that's not always very effective. This bill requires platforms to have an elaborate age verification system, likely run by third-party providers. So once again, we have another party that is involved, and it's most likely going to require checking your government-issued ID to verify your age, much like what we already see with YouTube requiring people to verify the age of their account by taking a picture of their driver's license before they can watch certain videos. And it also requires platforms to implement parental controls, and for those to be turned on to their highest setting by default to block or filter out a wide array of content. Now, this bill had bipartisan support because, surprise, surprise, both sides of our controlled opposition cant into how technology works. I mean, seriously, we have all of these other arbitrary requirements for people to join Congress, like they have to be 25 or older. So why don't we also throw in a requirement that you must be able to set up a printer all by yourself? If you can't do that, you're not allowed to vote on bills that have anything to do with technology or regulating its use. Now, there's problems with literally every single one of these main proposals, like the parental controls, for example. Those are great on the client device level, limiting apps that a kid can install on their device, for example, or what websites they can go to. That's already really effective if you know what you're doing and you actually take the time to understand these parental controls. It's better to prevent kids from accessing platforms that are suspect than to put parental controls right into the platform, because then those platforms, they have to spy on everything that you're doing within it. So when we're talking about something like an app with end-to-end encryption, for example, you basically have to create a side channel for inspecting the plain text messages before they are encrypted and then sent off to make sure that nothing inappropriate is taking place. So the creator of the app, they're going to have to create this internal surveillance and then give the parents access to it. And the fact that the parental controls have to be on by default means that when adults are using these apps, whatever person or company created the app, they're going to have access to your chats by default with that default setting. Ultimately, that gives everyone else much less privacy on their devices, because let's face it, most people, they're not going to take the time to change the default settings in their apps. Now, because KOSA is going to allow people to sue different platforms for allowing kids to access the so-called harmful content, what will most likely happen is that the platforms will simply purge all of it, all of the harmful content, because if nobody can see it, then kids certainly can't see it. That's the simplest, cheapest solution for them. And because many of these subjects include large gray areas, like, for example, let's take the eating disorders. You might consider whatever it is that Nakado Avocado does to be an eating disorder. Sure looks like it to me. So maybe you're also going to end up considering all of the different bodybuilders and powerlifters, all the videos that they do about their diets when they're eating like 5,000 plus calories a day. You're going to say, oh yeah, that's also an eating disorder. Chances are this blocking of harmful content is going to lead to censorship that goes way too far. Then there's the ID checks. If a platform has to check your government ID before you're able to create an account, or if they're going to have to check your credit card or something like that for you to access the platform in any meaningful way, then it is impossible for you to have any privacy when you're using that platform, even if you use a VPN or you try to access it through Tor. They know the moment that you log in that it is you. They have a picture of your driver's license. And while we're on the subject of VPNs or Tor, and while we're on the subject of VPNs, Tor, and other technology that is used to hide your identity online, KOSA's extremely broad definition of a covered platform includes any commercial software application or electronic service that connects to the internet and that is used or is reasonably likely to be used by a minor. So that means that not only are the social media platforms like Facebook and YouTube, which are already kind of spooky and they spy on you to begin with. So really this is just them handing over what they're collecting from you anyway to other third parties to comply with the regulation. But KOSA will likely create an internet of layered spooks. So you're going to have spooky browsers with spooky VPNs that connect to a spooky email service or a spooky social media, all because we need to save the children from viewing harmful content on the internet. Part of the reason why I think you see kids being harmed by online content these days is because they're put in bubbles from day one. They don't get any exposure to anything. Kids don't play outside anymore. Most of them are just plopped down in a room with a tablet, left to watch Disney Plus and Roblox videos all day. Then they see something out of the ordinary online and, oh no, my baby's brain is broken. They saw an offensive meme. I'm gonna have to go put him on a bunch of prescription drugs, turn him into a zombie now because his brain has been warped. That's honestly what so many parents think is actually the correct way to handle these situations. Children's access to the internet and what they access, it should 100% be the responsibility of the parents. They should know better than anybody else what is good and what is bad for their kids, because not all kids are the same. Kids that grow up in the country, they might learn to use guns at an early age, or kids that grow up in the city, they might learn to take the bus or train themselves at an early age. Different kids, they're all going to have different reactions to different content online. Who would have thought? So you shouldn't want a government who doesn't give a damn about your kids to begin with to be their daddy. And like I talked about, all of these measures from KOSA, they're going to ruin online privacy, not just for your kids, but for you as well, because there's a lot of nasty stuff that's on the internet. I mean, something like 20% of all internet downloads are related to porn. The definitions of things in this bill, like platforms and other matters that pose a risk to physical and mental health of a minor, they're so vague that almost any kind of technology and content could fall under this umbrella. So we're going to be moving even closer into an all-seeing nanny state, all in the name of protecting the children.